Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful October the 14th, 2020. Rondo Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, everybody's ecstatic down in the South. When you think about two states, Houston and Texas and Georgia, and in 2 days, over 600,000 American citizens have gone to the polls and voted in those two states over the last 2 days. What an amazing turnout thus far, and over 13 million Americans have already early voted on this presidential campaign for November 3rd. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders. You're on the front line every day, and you get it done every day.
They get it done every day. And like the great Will Spencer says on CNN, this might be the biggest vote in the universe. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, just tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he will do his thing from 3,000 miles away. So that means we're more than 6 feet apart, Big C. I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll have a dumb TV, and you'll be sitting there looking at it to a picture. Big C, I love pausing, man. I mean, pausing's good for you, it really is, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experts at helping veterans and their loved ones. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, it's very important. We lose some 24 of our veterans a day to suicide. And as many of our great veterans, Charlton, find themselves in nursing homes. Our president sent out a tweet today mocking the residents of nursing homes.
I know.
That he was mocking our great veterans of this country.
Yeah.
We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, because we try to stem the tide of suicide in this country, where many other people seem not to care and are very callous about it.
Yeah.
We have homeless veterans. We have destitute veterans, mentally and physically, Charlton. Those that are unemployed and also stricken by COVID-19.
Yeah.
Our veterans struggle every day, just like everyday citizens in America, but some of them struggle even more, and it has led to suicide. As a country, we need to be more compassionate to their needs. And we give out the National Suicide Hotline number, Charlton. This needs to be more of a concerted effort amongst all Americans.
Yeah.
And with the president going lowball, playing handball against the curb with the snake today, mocking our great senior citizens and veterans in this country that are in nursing homes.
Yeah.
This guy does not deserve to serve in this country, and it shows the disrespect that he still has for our great veterans.
Yeah, that's why we give it out, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can really get people some help also. Very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid, and the home run leader Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, just tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships are doing it, and sports teams are doing it too. You can watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to BigCSports.pacwm.com. That's BigCSports.pacwm.com. Quicken Loans underwrites most of our loans on the wholesale side, and I really appreciate the growth. Big C, I think about something you said, because I know a lot of people man, I know a lot of pastors. In fact, I know pastors that have congregations as much as 10,000 in the United States. And a lot of their members are up in age. They can't go and visit their grandchildren. Their grandchildren cannot come and visit them. And when I saw that, I felt so embarrassed for those people who even support the president. And they said, you got to show respect to the president. No, you don't. What do you say to those grandparents that haven't hugged their grandchildren in 5 or 6 months, and this knucklehead is making fun of them? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, what do you say to any American citizen, Charlton? But to denigrate our senior citizens in this country, Charlton, anybody who has elderly parents or grandparents know what a senior citizen is.
Yeah.
I'm a senior citizen myself.
Yeah.
But to denigrate those people that are in the nursing homes, and we know that nursing homes have been afflicted by COVID-19.
I know.
But to have no compassion for these elderly people in America, thinking that they're dispensable based on his tweet. Charlton, this is an individual with no compassion, nor does he care about America. And those fools who follow him that are racist and bigots, just like he is, Charlton.
Yeah.
Even the people in Congress that back him. You know, this shows the lowness that our country has come to.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it. You know, I'm one of the fortunate Americans. When I was born, my grandmother and great-grandmother were alive on my mother's side. On my father's side, my grandmother and grandfather were still alive. So spending time with them as well as my parents, there was different generations that I was able to be a part of. And I'm very proud that they made sure that we got our education. You got to get your education, baby. That's all you got that they can't take away from you. And man, I really appreciate what they're saying. So when Donald Trump's making fun of the elderly people who cannot hug their grandchildren or great-grandchildren, that's a shame. Made fun of Joe Biden in a I guess an old folks home in a wheelchair. And then he's asking suburban white women to ignore that he wants to grab them by the vagina and their daughters. And would you believe that every 20 seconds in this country, Big C, women are sexually assaulted by men who make fun about grabbing women by the vagina, and they make it locker room behavior. And I ask any of those suburban white women, it's not Willie Horton that you're afraid of this time, and then Ronald Reagan made that shameful ad. What do you say to a man that says they're going to grab you by your vagina, but vote for me anyway, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he has a base that does not mind him saying that, and they believe that. Most of them probably even grew up in that horrific situation.
Yeah.
But when you back him and you understand and listen to his statements and they don't appall you, what kind of person are you?
Yeah, he's a horrible knucklehead. Before we touch on some sports, because I was raised to read and I was not allowed to be dumb. So if people don't like that, no worries. Donald Trump also, he lied again against President Obama, who's going to be out on the trail stomping again with Joe Biden very soon. He lied about the spying on the campaign. His own Attorney General, William Barr, who says there is no racism in the United States of America, even though he works for a bigot. This is the same guy that said the birther conspiracy against President Obama. So what does he say to Will Barr now that his own crony has said, no, Donald, we can't find anything to further your lies? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he'll come up with something new. October is not over. His next attack will be on Joe Biden and his family.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war. I just ask people to get out and vote. If you're going to complain, that's fine. But make sure you get out and vote. You got to text the word vote. And you text that word vote to 26797. Text the word vote 26797. You got to get registered. If you're afraid, just tell them Big C sent you and the NFL sent you. You got to get out there and get registered to vote. If you don't vote, then you don't count. And I really appreciate what you said. Make this the biggest vote in the history of the universe. Even the great Will Spencer said that. Big C, I want to touch on some things about our app for people all over the world. In fact, all over the universe. If you want to listen to the Big C Sports Show, and it's everywhere in the world, even in China, you can go Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcasts, Alexa. You just see the app pop up, and you download the app into your smartphone, and that way you can hear Big C's his thoughts every day of the week in the universe, no matter where you are, Big C. I want to touch on some things about Major League Baseball. My goodness. Baseball's a great game. The Tampa Bay Rays, they are one win away from their first trip to the World Series since 2008, Big C. They defeated the Houston Astros 5-2 on Tuesday. in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series at Petco Park in San Diego is Joey Wendell and Hunter Renfroe, and also a couple of other players in the bullpen led the way, helping their team seize a commanding 3-0 lead. And they took advantage, I think, of a lot of opportunities against Houston. As for the Astros, a solid showing from starter Josh Uruki, and it was not enough to prevent a third consecutive loss. They will now have to win 4 straight games to reach the Fall Classic for the third time in 4 years. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, and Houston has struggled this year, Charlton. They've been a regular in the Fall Classic, but this year it seems like they're not going to make it. I know they had a late game error by Jose Altuve at second base last night where he bounced the ball past the shortstop. They would have turned a routine double play. But this has been the Rays' year. They dominated the regular season, the abbreviated regular season in the American League East. They dispatched the powerful Yankees from the playoffs, Charlton, when your friend, what's his name?
His name is Aroldis Chapman, Big Z.
Well, he had his back end a little chapped after the Rays left the home plate with the home run a couple times, Charlton. But, you know, you got to be inspired about having new blood in the Fall Classic. I've been very impressed with the Rays this year and the job that they've done in this abbreviated season. They've gone down and handled business here in the playoffs, Charlton. The thing is, it's been their pitching that has been dominant. And when you get to this time of the year, everybody talks about your aces in the bullpen, that you got to have 2 or 3 starters in that rotation that can get the job done. The Rays have got that done consistently, and they're going to get the Astros out. And with all the problems that the Astros had coming into the season about the cheating scandal, it's kind of good to see that they don't make it back to the World Series.
Yeah, but this gonna really put a monkey wrench in the dent of video camera cells. If that makes any sense to you, Big C. It's all fair and level war. I love LA, Big C. Not once this year have the Dodgers dropped 3 consecutive games. The Braves put an end to that talk. You know how them good old boys down south give you a libation, that Southern hospitality. It took the Dodgers 2 games to realize that Southern hospitality is not friendly, Big C. Sometimes it makes you a little bit lightheaded when they give you that libation. The Braves put an end to that talk, but I'm telling you this, the Dodgers have a chance to come back tonight. I'm not giving out scores, but there's one undefeated team remaining in the postseason, and it's the Braves, whose 8-7 victory was an NL record-tying 7th in a row to start the playoffs, and far more convincing than the final score indicated, Big C. The Dodgers, they did tattoo Josh Tomlin, Big C, the Braves mop-up guy, for 3 runs in the 9th inning before Malachi worked around an error and a triple and recorded a 1-out save going into the 9th. Atlanta did hold an 8-3 lead and was primed for a post of back-to-back wins by at least 4 runs against the Dodgers, and that's very difficult to do, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, you talk about your boys in blue, Charlton. They've been a little blue playing against the Braves. Think about this. 7 consecutive games in the playoffs, and you've been undefeated. The Atlanta Braves, I mean, their 6 broke out last night just like the Dodgers did. They scored the most runs last night against the Dodgers that they scored in that 7-game stretch, Charlton, 8 runs. But the Dodgers, as you said, had some spark late in the game where they were able to put some runs on the board against the Braves. Where their pitching had been dominant throughout that 6-game run prior to last night. But the Dodgers found some life late in the game. Unfortunately for the Dodgers, it was not enough. Now you think about the Dodgers have to win 4 games to get to the World Series, and they have not won 1 yet. It's going to be a tough road and a hill to climb.
As my friend Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. I said, I don't give out scores, but them Dodgers, when they drink their own Gatorade, as opposed to the stuff you guys give people when they come to the South Big C, I think they'll hit the ball a lot better if they understand what I'm talking about. Drink your own Gatorade. Guys from LA, I think you know what I'm talking about. It's all fair and level war. And then, if you know, no matter what it is, isn't it odd, Big C? With the great fan base that the Dodgers have and the great fan base that the Braves have, you know, Tampa has a horrible fan base. I don't care what they do. Houston has a great fan base. How do you feel about these teams not being able to celebrate in their own stadiums, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is the pandemic that everybody's playing under, Charlton. Everybody's on a neutral site. So it's showing who's the best road warriors when it comes down to the playoffs, because everybody's been in the neutral site. And even the World Series will be in a neutral site down in Texas, down in Arlington, in that new stadium. So it's about who's best on the road. There's going to be limited fans in the stadiums, but you know, that's why pitching is so paramount when you get to this time of the year.
It is paramount. But tonight I sent my friends down at Dodgers Stadium the Big C Burger It is a tasty burger. It really is a great burger. It has exotic meats. And I think once they give up those chicken wings for some ooh yeah Big C burgers, I think the Dodgers will have a much better showing tonight. It's all fair and level more. I want to jump into the world. Man, there's so many things to talk about today, Big C, from the Supreme Court Justice lying about there's 9 things that she forgot. They said she had the best memory in the universe, Big C. She hit 9 things that she'd already ruled on, and them good old boys at CNN found it, but we'll touch on that later. In the NFL, despite their issues off the field, the Tennessee Titans, they remain an elite team. And I'm telling you, that moonshine does make you clairvoyant because you set Buffalo itself for their first loss last night. And so congratulations on the pick. The Titans improved to 4-0 with a 42-16 beatdown of the Buffalo Bills on Tuesday behind a 4-touchdown effort from Ryan Tannehill. Tennessee has been dealing with an outbreak of COVID-19 with 13 players and 11 staff members testing positive over the past few weeks, and it caused last week's game to be postponed. Now, while this game was delayed, I think just 2 days, Big C, the squad still performed, and once the game began, they scored a lot of touchdowns, Big C, on all 5 red zone opportunities to secure the victory. Josh Allen, the good old boy from Fireball, California, was held in check and threw 2 interceptions. The Bills fell to 4-1 on the season, their first loss of the season, but they still look like they have a good team, but something was going on last night. I told them bring their own Gatorade, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, if they got a good team, that means that the Titans have a great team. You didn't realize the Titans were without 8 starters last night.
Yeah.
That's what people are not giving the Titans enough credit for. They were without 8 starters in their lineup last night, and they came out and throttled the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
I told you that they would run up the middle on them, and they handled that defensive line of the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
But I think they had this guy sitting out there on the corner who did not make a business decision. A guy named Norman or something like that. Josh Norman. Who is posterized. I mean, when you talk about handing out a punk ticket, he got punked big time by Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I mean, he put an arm on his shoulder pads off him, and all you saw was the bottom of his feet. I mean, you don't even do that to a Pop Warner kid.
No, you don't.
Him like that.
No, you don't.
Derrick Henry treated him like he was a rag doll.
Yeah.
And when you're a defensive back and you see a defensive lineman coming at you, you got to make the proper business decision. You got to take it dead aim at his ankle or his knee. You got to throw your body out there.
Yeah.
But don't go up there trying to challenge that man face to face.
Yeah.
You found out the difference last night between a man and a boy.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry was the man in that confrontation.
Yeah, he should have given the Draymond Green and kicked him with the sun don't shine, if that makes sense to you, but it's all fair level board. Speaking of man and among boys, Big C, I love New York City, especially when I'm flying out of LaGuardia or JFK. The New York Jets' rocky relationship ended with Le'Veon Bell came to an abrupt end Tuesday when the team announced it had released another good player. Right? They release you when they don't like you, not because you can't perform, but the move it concluded a 19-month tenure that was filled with a lot of disappointment and broken promises. The Jets, the Jets, they're responsible for the remaining $6 million on Bell's 2020 base pay. They're letting go of everybody that's good, but the coach stays. How does that make sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, think about this. What happened last year? Adam Gates, 2 years ago was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Who was his quarterback? Ryan
Tannehill.
Didn't we see Ryan Tannehill last night
doing his thing?
Touchdown.
Yeah.
Without Adam Gates.
Yep.
Being his head coach.
Yeah.
You got rid of Jamal Adams earlier in the year.
In Seattle.
Jamal Adams is performing well in Seattle.
Yeah.
They got rid of a receiver. I believe his name is Anderson. He's Teddy Two Gloves' #1 receiver down there in Carolina. He's had 3 100-yard games this year in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody who's left New York has performed well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm going to give a shout-out to Le'Veon Bell. You spent 18 games with the New York Jets.
Yep.
You made $28 million in 18 games. Think about it. He made $28 million in 18 games. They sent him home and still owe him another $6 million.
Yeah.
I kind of think that, JETS just in the season soon. Oh, somebody's stupid in that city.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell can start the Black Wall Street Part 2, Big C, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair level more. And speaking of the Black Wall Street, we talked about the Senate confirmation, Amy Coney Barrett. She lied about things. Women don't lie, they just forget, okay? That's funny to me. They don't lie, they just forget. It's all fair and level war. Men and women can do the same thing. but she forgot like 9 different times when she ruled on something, and she has the best memory in the universe, so she says, but she forgot to disclose 9 different times where she made rulings. But I want to bring up to the 47% guy. If you get 47% of a slice of pizza, that's pretty decent money. If you get 47% of Jerry Jones' bank account, that's excellent money. Senator Mitt Romney on U.S. politics, he said, I've stayed quiet on the approach of the election, but I'm troubled by our politics, Big C. Now, he's a Caucasian man in Utah. He said the president called the Democratic vice president or candidate a monster, an African-American woman. Called her a monster. He hasn't called white women monsters, not even the one that he's married to, Big C. And he said he repeatedly labels the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, crazy. He calls the Justice Department to put it in and to put in jail President Obama. And many Americans are frightened about our country. It's so divided, so angry, and so mean, and so violent. But I'm going to say something to Mitt Romney because he has the late Senator John McCain to lean on if he wants to understand this. He said that he hates the way Donald Trump behaves. However, Romney is also scared of Donald Trump. He can be like the next Senator John McCain. He can rebuke racism and sexism of Donald Trump and listen to the American people and vote no on the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett that starts tomorrow and let the people decide. But why won't Mitt Romney do that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Mitt Romney's not alone in this scenario, Charlton. When you look at all the Republican senators who are yay-hoo behind Donald Trump and everything that he has said and stood for.
Yeah.
All of them were blasphemy against Donald Trump prior to him becoming elected president. All of a sudden, once he was elected, it was almost like everybody was standing in line with their pants down around their ankles.
Yeah.
So, whatever he has on everybody and why they're scared of him, I couldn't understand it as a human being. But, who says that senators are human beings?
Isn't that true? Donald Trump even said that Ted Cruz's wife was ugly. Isn't that fighting words when a man says your wife is ugly and then you get on your knees and you go to work?
He agrees with it.
Yeah, that's funny. Your wife's ugly. Hey, can I go work for you? Maybe he does agree. It's all fair and love of war. But I just want people to realize that voting does have consequences. I know we're talking about some football and sports and how it all ties together. I want to get your thoughts on something. I heard, some news that came out about, Adam Schefter, some breaking news. I don't know if you heard the same thing, but I want to get your thought about what it means to you because sometimes I get tired of listening to myself speak, Big C. So I want to get your thoughts on some things that the great Adam Schefter said, and it deals with the race and politics, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you think about Adam Schefter, I mean, you were talking about it yesterday. When will guys speak up in the media? When will the brethren speak up?
Yeah.
Got Adam Schefter speaking up all the time about what's going on in the media, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he doesn't speak up in light for black people other than just talking about them in sports. He understands that there's white privilege in the business, and the only time that you want to stump for black people is when they're performing.
Yeah.
He doesn't stump for black athletes, black coaches, but he wants to denigrate them, in the words that he speaks. It's just like when he spoke the other day talking about 3 weeks from now is the most important day in America.
Yeah.
And yet, instead of realizing that this should have been talking about the vote, he said, it's a trade deadline when you can move another black athlete to another team.
Wow.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But it's a dog whistle when you get guys like that talking and you think that he's only talking about sports, but he's talking about white skin privilege, having the privilege to be able to work in an industry that's talking about black people and they're making you money and they can't even get into the industry.
Isn't that something? I think a lot of guys, and I'm glad I wanted to hear you talk about it because sometimes I hear myself think about things and I said, well, maybe I should be more, open-minded about it and not try to, poke at everything that somebody does. But if we who have a consciousness let things go by, then guys who are intellectually vapid, they have no hope. That's why I love speaking the truth. And you can Google everything we say. We don't say trust us. Just Google it. And I hope you do the same thing for the election coming up. Just Google every candidate. Is so important. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause. And when we come back, Big C, I want to ask you, I want to ask you more about that statement because Amy Coney Barrett did the same thing. It's amazing how people conveniently forget things. We'll be back in just a moment after the Big C pause. All right, you can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can just ask Alexa to play Big C Sports Podcast, and she will listen to you when you talk to her. Big C, where can we get, I'm going to say something very, it's not sexist. Sometimes women say men don't listen. Is there a way we can design a pill that would make women listen to us, Big C? That makes sense to you?
Well, if she does listen, you have to understand her case where the man is the dominant individual in the household. So if he's going to listen to the man that's in the house, he's not going to listen to the politicians there at the precinct.
Yeah, I need a computer that will listen to me more often, Big C. But I do, as we talk about what Big C Sports is, we want to be the new sexy. We want to be bold. We want to be clever. We want to be funny. We want to be thrilling. But we really want to be honest. We never want to accuse a president of spying on a campaign. We never want to accuse a president of being a birtherism. You know, the birtherism movement, that he's not an American citizen. It flummoxes me. Even though I'm not surprised by it, I still see that there are so many people that can support a bigot, a guy who's a sexist, racist pig. Even Senator Mitt Romney says that about him. And he won't walk away from him. It's like, you ever been in love with somebody who treats you bad, Big C? You just can't let go, Big C. That makes sense to you.
No, I know where the door and the doorknob is like, and I have no problem leaving a situation.
Yeah.
But, it's just like Adam Schefter said. Sports is apolitical.
Yeah.
You pick your battles. You stay out of certain things.
Yeah.
And all they want to do is deal with the battle of sports. They don't want to talk about politics. And they talk about that on the off time.
Yeah, they do it on the off time. That's why God allowed Big C Sports to come on. Even Will Spencer is saying this should be the biggest vote in the universe. Really appreciate that. Back to the world of the NFL. And to me, again, I grew up watching my favorite San Francisco 49er at one time was Gene Washington. And then a guy by the name of Jerry Rice showed up on the scene. But I've always liked the red and gold. But the NFL has been willing to let go of mediocrity. It has to be willing, Big C. And in my opinion, and the white game privilege, these white quarterbacks should be looking for new jobs next season. And I say that because there's always been this talk when I was growing up. Well, the black guys, Jimmy the Greek Snyder, we don't know if they have the ability to play, if they have the smarts to play the game. We don't know if they can read the defense, and you don't want to give them too much to do. Just shut up and rush the quarterback. But that's been told to the whole world for a long time. And before I bring up a couple of quarterbacks, I want to get your thoughts. As a guy who played defense, did it ever bother you that you were always told that you're not as smart as the guys they wanted to make the leaders of a team? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, Charlton, we felt that we were smarter on that side of the ball. When you think about what defensive players have to understand about what's going on in the game.
Yeah.
We have as many play calls as an offense do. And when you see an offense at the line of scrimmage making adjustments, that defense has to make an adjustment twice as fast.
Yeah.
So the intelligent players on a football team are on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. I've always felt that anybody is capable of learning anything. And I knew growing up, even if it was playing street football or playing on a team, it seemed like the African-American guys dominated. And that's why, because they were given an opportunity, the same thing can happen in coaching. But I'm going to throw some names, and you just give me your thoughts on it. Matt Ryan, I know he's been the Falcons' prodigal son. But Ryan, think about this. He's and people can Google this. He's 2 wins and 13 losses as a starter in the first 15 games over the last 3 seasons, 2008, 2019, and 2020. So what in a 2-13 quarterback in the first 5 games of the last 3 seasons makes Arthur Blank say, you know what, you deserve $155 million, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as much as Arthur Blank, as much as the media also, the media gives him a pass on these lackadaisical
3 wins?
As you think about it. They want to blame everybody else within the Falcon organization.
Yeah.
This is a guy that they talk about, a potential Hall of Fame quarterback.
Wow.
He was an MVP back in 2016. Why is he falling so far from grace? He is the one not performing.
Yeah.
He is the one not getting the Atlanta Falcons victory. But you talk about that. 2 wins in the first 15 games over the last 3 seasons, Charlton. What did we see Dwayne Haskins? He had 1 win in 7 starts, and got benched.
Yeah.
Got benched, Charlton, a black quarterback.
Yeah. It's not fair, but that's why God allowed Big C Sports to talk about it, because our other brother won't. And again, Jameis Winston threw for 5,000 yards last year, and he's a third-team quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Isn't that amazing? That kind of hurts your stomach when you think about fairness. Matthew Stafford up in Detroit, Big C. Stafford is 5 wins, 9 losses, and 1 tie in his first 15 starts over the last 3 seasons. You can Google it, 2018, 2019, and 2020. He makes $100+ million, and he can't get you more wins than that in the last 3 years in the first 5 games. Your thoughts?
Well, everybody always in the media, Adam Schefter as well, raves about his comeback ability, the ability he has to come behind, and how big his arm is, and how well he throws the deep ball. Evidently, he's not throwing the deep ball too damn well, because he only got 5 wins, Charlton.
Yeah.
In the last 3 seasons, 5 wins as a starting quarterback over the first 15 games. So you think about the productivity and how much leeway a white quarterback is given by the NFL for being inept.
Yeah.
When you look at Colin Kaepernick in his last year in the NFL, when he was injured, he had this many wins, Charlton.
Yeah. And he had 16 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions in his last 8 games, and he needed surgery. But he was black, and they wanted to get rid of him because he said stop killing black kids. And, sometimes that's anathema to some people. They don't want to hear that message, Big C. I want to bring it up to another guy. I want to stay up in the great and Midwest, Big C, in the North. Kirk Cousins, Minnesota Vikings. And people can please Google this when they tell you that black men don't have the mental acuity to play the game. He's 6 wins, 8 losses, and 1 tie in his last 15 opening season games in the last 3 seasons. Google it, 2018, 2019, 2020. In the first 5 games of each of those 3 seasons, 6 wins, 8 losses, and 1 tie. Big C, your thoughts?
And that got you an $84 million guaranteed contract. That's what your cousin got in Minnesota. This year he gets a $66 million guaranteed extension.
Yeah.
And he has 1 win this year, Charlton.
Yeah.
So when you think about the price and the value that the NFL puts on white skin privilege taking snaps from center, it's a disparity. And when people cried about Patrick Mahomes getting his big contract, they cried about Dak Prescott holding out and not signing a long-term contract with the Dallas Cowboys. They don't say anything about these white quarterbacks that cannot win a game, let alone win a division title, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's acceptable for a white quarterback to steal from an organization, have the team lose, and then fire the head coach. Jim Caldwell got fired with Matthew Stafford.
I know it.
Matthew Stafford, when Jim Caldwell, his last season as the head coach of the Detroit Lions, he won 9 games.
Yep.
9 games. In the last 2.5 seasons since Jim Caldwell is gone, Matthew Stafford has won 6 games.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yep.
In 2.5 years, he's won 6 games. Under a black head coach, he won 9 games before they fired.
Yeah, and that got him fired. There's a John Howard Griffith that wrote a book called Black Like Me way back in the 40s and 50s, I believe. And then Dr. Cornel West wrote a book called Race Matters. I think everyone just read it. There's a lot of things going on that if we don't address it, we can never fix it. Donald Trump knows what that means with his hatred and racism. He's playing right by the playbook, Big C. There's another quarterback. He came out of North Dakota State, Carson Wentz, Philadelphia Eagles. I know they were saying Carson Wentz is the next great NFL quarterback. No Ron Jaworski, no Donovan McNair, Big C. Think about this. He's 6 wins, 8 losses, and 1 tie in his last 15 games to open the season. Last 3 seasons as a starter, 2018, 2019, and 2020. And unlike Donald Trump and Amy Coney Barrett, we want you to Google what we say. Google it. If we're wrong, let us know. But Carson Wentz, 6 wins, 8 losses, 1 tie in the last 15 games. That means the last 3 years, first 5 games, he only had 6 wins. Big C, your thoughts?
And they gave him $110 million guaranteed, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because they said he was the future of the NFL.
Wow.
He didn't win the Super Bowl for the Eagles. That was a kid named Floyd.
Yep.
Nick Foles, rather.
Yeah.
He won the Super Bowl for the Seahawks. But we look at Carson Wentz, and every time you turn around, they're blaming everybody on the Philadelphia Eagles except him.
Yeah.
Well, he has no help at receiver. He has no help at offensive line. He has no help at running back. You make $110 million, you can make the trash man a good ball player, don't
Yeah.
you? If you're making that kind of money.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is just like those other quarterbacks that you've named.
Yeah.
High hopes, low expectations. You pay him because he's white. Productivity you accept because he's white.
Yeah.
They can't win.
I go back to the pain that I heard growing up, even playing football. When I played in high school and played in college and been around a lot of NFL, just covering the news, Big C, and covering sports. But I've grown accustomed to California football because I think you really play the best football in the country. Just my opinion. When you look at players in the NFL, California, Florida, and Texas is all there. But Sam Darnold, he was one of my favorite players as a quarterback at USC. And this shows me how much talent he was surrounded by. A lot like Patrick Walsh when he went down to the University of Miami. He was a kid from Northern California, Patrick Walsh. Also, there was a kid by the name of Gino Torretta out of Pinole Valley High School in Northern California. Patrick Walsh went to Monte Vista over in Danville. And they've always had very good players. And they put them around NFL receivers, and they got the white guys drafted. But you take them away from those players, and when they got to the next level, they never turned out quite the same. So Sam Darnold, New York Jets, Darnold's 3 wins and 11 losses in his last 14 opening games in the last 3 seasons as a starter, 2018, 2019, and 2020. He was up for the Heisman Trophy. All the guys he was throwing to are made it to the NFL as receivers. Big C, it's the same thing. It's the overhypeness of the Caucasian quarterback. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they finally benched him last week, Charlton, but, you and I have had this conversation about Sam Darnold before, is that he was not NFL ready. Regardless of the hype where he played in college at, his numbers were not that great, plus minus while he was in college.
Yeah.
And it's proven out in the NFL. I mean, he doesn't have a head coach, and they've gotten rid of all the talent around him. But to be the number 3 overall pick in the draft,
yeah,
and to have the lack of production that he has, I mean, it doesn't bode well for a great NFL career. And when you talk about these guys that you just named, I see half of them at least being with other teams, new teams next season.
Yeah.
Even Sam Darnold and Matt Ryan. I see Matt Ryan coming out there to your neighborhood, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Playing with Shanahan, the offensive coordinator he went to the Super Bowl with.
Yep.
Darnold, this is a guy who may end up with the Indianapolis coach. Phillip Rivers is not getting the job done in Indianapolis. All they need is a quarterback. And they have some of his buddies from USC playing there in Indianapolis. When you see some moves of these quarterbacks, Charlton, at least 3 of them will be on different teams starting next year.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that the NFL, they put out there every year. They don't Google what they say like Big C Sports says Google us. Todd McShay is one of them. And then he has Mel Kiper. Nothing wrong with those guys. They're doing what somebody's paying them to do, but they're not accurate. Because every quarterback that we just talked about, that Big C Sports says, Google what we say and see if we know. We're 2 black men. We're 3,000 miles away. We saw the COVID-19 thing coming a long time ago. That's why I said, Big C, 6 feet's not enough. You got to go 3,000 miles away. And so we even were pressured enough to do that. But I really mean this. A lot of sports people and are always looking for the next sponsor. And a lot of sponsors are always looking to put their package behind the real McCoy. I'm being honest about this. You want to spend tens of millions of dollars to sponsor shows, and I appreciate having some of the best sponsors in the world. But when you have a program that puts Todd McShay and Mel Kiper out there, and they tell these NFL owners who are billionaires to go out and draft these guys, and Big C Sports was also doing the same thing. And why is it that we've been right? And how did anyone know it'd be right? I want everyone to succeed. Your thoughts on what it means to be accurate and honest, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, right now in America, Charlton, I don't know if that's the best thing to be, is accurate and honest when we look at the leadership of our country coming from the Oval Office. What we've done in sports since we've been on the air is try to be consistent. And in consistency, Charlton, hopefully you build a base. And what you say is not always popular with the mainstream, because the mainstream feels that they have the best production quality product out there, and that makes them right, and people are going to pay attention to them. But they lead a lot of people in the wrong direction. Ask Las Vegas. Las Vegas makes a lot of money based on those guys who are supposed to be right making their decisions.
Yeah, imagine you give Big C Sports $100 million like you've done to some other people, and they're not even accurate. All I'm saying is Google it and let us have the same opportunity that they have to make mistakes or to be right. It's all fair in love and war. College football, welcome to our Heisman Watch of 2020. college football COVID season, Trevor Lawrence had 4 touchdowns in a blowout win over Miami. And I do believe what just hit Alabama is going to hit Miami soon. And it also hit Florida and a couple other programs, but I'll get into that later. They had a big game against Clemson, and Miami just could not hold up. It was 3 in the air and 1 rushing touchdown for the great Trevor Lawrence. And I'm thinking this guy, obviously, I'm saying he's going to be a number 1 pick. Through 4 games, he's yet to throw an interception while leading Clemson to the number 1 ranking. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this guy has been living up to all his clippings. I mean, a 3-year starter at Clemson, he's gotten better each year. But, you know, the best number that you just spoke about, no interceptions yet this year, Charlton, through 4 games.
Yeah. And for people that say, oh, you guys are just trying to be, you know, anti what the mainstream says, because the mainstream hates black quarterbacks. They hate to see black guys in a leadership position. It goes back to the great Joe Gilliam. It goes back to Randall Cunningham when he broke a record. So, you know, throwing for most yards with the Vikings. He didn't see another down. Doug Williams threw 5 touchdown passes in the Super Bowl against John Elway, and he couldn't get another job because he made the white guy look bad. So I'm telling you right now that the number 1 quarterback, in my opinion, would be a Caucasian guy, and his name, we just brought it up to you, Trevor Lawrence. So to me, it has nothing to do with race. We either know what we're talking about or we don't. When you go to that doctor and he reaches into that bag and he gives you something that makes you feel good, you want to go to him again. And we want to be that doctor that makes you feel good, Big C. When you think about running the football and making people feel good, Travis Etienne on Saturday, this great running back out of Clemson, had a touchdown, marking his 39th game with a touchdown, more than any other player in college football history. There's no more of a dynamic running back in college football than Etienne, who had 149 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground to go with 8 catches for 73 yards through the air. And it's my opinion, you may disagree, but I haven't seen a running back in college this good since Reggie Bush with USC. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you talk about a complete running back, and to be complimentary to the quarterback that you spoke about, Trevor Lawrence, that these 2 players can work in tandem and work so cohesively. This Clemson team is clicking on all cylinders, led by these 2 great individuals. But when you have a running back that dynamic, that he's as much a threat on the ground as he is catching the ball out of the backfield, it's a nightmare for defensive coordinators.
Mm-hmm. It's a nightmare, and the fact that they work together, and I mean, when we talk about the Matt Ryan thing, I know a lot of people down south don't want to hear that. What do you mean, Matt Ryan? He's not a good quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, Arthur Blank, listen, you got more money than the guy that owns that chicken wing restaurant that all the players go to down south. Watch how Trevor Lawrence moves around in the pocket. Compare that to Matt Ryan. Which one would look better in the Falcon uniform? It's all fair and love and war. Maybe you shouldn't win all your games. I want to bring up another player that I think is really good in my opinion. Mark Jones continued to show that he's more than just Tua Tagovailoa, former backup. On Saturday, he helped Bama score 63 points in a win over Ole Miss, even though Ole Miss has a bad defense. He threw for 417 yards and 2 touchdowns, Big C. He looked very, very good in the offense. Your thoughts?
Mac Jones has proven to be a much better quarterback than people gave him credit for. He filled in for Tua last year when he tore up his hip. But he stepped in full command of this Alabama offense. And when you look at this team, Charlton, they're scoring almost 50 points a game with him at quarterback. And they have a big test coming up this week versus Georgia, an SEC conference game. If Mac Jones wins this game, he might move up another notch in his Heisman race.
Yeah, he might move up another notch, but I don't know if they're going to have that game, Big C. We'll talk about Alabama and Nick Saban and his athletic director testing positive for COVID-19. You can't get much bigger than that in college football. Big C Sports been talking about it as people are going on and playing these games anyway. The Florida Gators, they suffered their first loss of the season. Kyle Trask did his part to give Florida a chance to win. He threw for 312 yards, 4 touchdowns, giving him 14 on the year. And he did that in only 3 games, outperforming all those NFL quarterbacks that we've talked about. Big C, your thoughts?
And this was a young man, Charlton, that did not go into a season as a starter since he was 7 years old when he took over the helm at the University of Florida this year. But he has stepped up in replacing Felipe Franks at quarterback.
Yeah.
He's leading the nation in touchdown passes. It was a hard-fought loss last week to Texas A&M. They lost on that last-second field goal.
Yep.
But Kyle Trask with another 4-touchdown performance and exciting quarterback.
Yeah, it's a shame they're all dealing with the COVID. POTUS is lying to people, saying, hey, it's okay. I know 215,000 people passed away, and he's dancing around as if he's happy that we've had 215,000 Americans die because he lied about how dangerous the virus was. I mean, think about that when you go to the polls. He's dancing over 215,000 people died, all because he failed to warn us what he had known since January 28th. Imagine if your doctor lied to you and said, no, you don't need medication, you're fine. Just go home and keep eating all that salt and deep fried food and don't worry about it. Don't exercise, you'll be fine. Imagine that, Big C, but it's all fair and love and war. People do what they want to do.
Well, you got to understand, Charlton, he also understands that he's suppressing the vote by that.
Yeah.
You think about that. Over 215,000 Americans have died from COVID-19.
Yeah.
That means over 215,000 Americans who did not believe in him will not be voting against him. That is the ultimate of suppressing the vote. And here's a guy who's committed mass murder in America just to suppress the vote. That's what people are not looking at or understanding. We're focusing only on COVID-19, but he let this disease become rampant because it was another way for him to suppress the vote. He knew that people that did not want to vote for him most likely would end up catching COVID-19, and they would not be going to the polls if they were not alive.
Well, I'll also say, Big C, a lot of the people that do go to his rally, like he's having today in Iowa, and they're not wearing masks. I mean, it's all fair and love and war, but I just say watch out for the people that you love, and you can't worry about what some politician says. I want to finish up with something before I touch on Najee Harris. You know, when we think about players that are up for the 2020 Heisman, Najee Harris came out of Antioch, California, over here in the Bay Area, just east of Oakland, Big C. He played at Antioch High School. He ran for 206 yards and scored 5 touchdowns. Now think about this. He had 23 carries. He averaged 9 yards a carry, Big C. 9 yards a carry against Ole Miss defense. One of the best running backs in the planet, Alabama. But he's from one of the hotbeds of high school football in Northern California, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, he had an outstanding performance. You talk about the lack of ability of that Mississippi defense. It was Najee Harris's best game of the season. He ran for as many yards in that game as he had ran in his previous 2 games, but an outstanding outing in prime time.
Yeah, I really think he's going to do great. He's already has an NFL body. I just hope he stays healthy, and they don't have to run him too much down in Alabama. Let him save some of that running when he's running to the bank, Big C. You rather run 9 times to the bank or 9 yards of carry in college football, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you can call him a little Derrick Henry. You think about the three backs that he's followed there at the University of Alabama.
Yeah, he has a NFL football written all over him. And I want to bring up one more thing to the sponsors out there that are covering sports shows. We may not have the $10 million equipment, and that's all fair and love and war. But we're the only sports show in the universe that speaks extemporaneously for 1 hour, Monday through Friday. We take a 5-second pause. You know, the pause that Wolf Bitzer talked about? We take a 5-second pause. We're not having 7 different people call into our platform so they can help us fill content. We don't have teleprompters. If the teleprompter goes down, we don't know what to say. We're speaking from extemporaneous thinking. We do it from our higher self. And I think that's something to write home about. I really appreciate it. College football. Is Tom Herman really the right man for the Texas job? I want you to think about this, Big C. I know you like the Southern football and the way they all play. But his predecessor went 12-15 in conference play over 3 seasons. If you look at Herman's record over that time span, and you can Google it, he's won only 3 more games in that conference than Charlie Strong did. And when he got there, he had the benefit of Charlie Strong's players that he had built up recruiting over the couple of years. His 17-13 record includes the Big 12 Conference championship game loss to Oklahoma. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think that the people down in Texas, down there in Longhorn Country, are coming a little disgruntled with Tom Herman. You know, he came in with high accolades out of the University of Houston, Charlton, and he said he was going to turn the program around. The program right now is at the same place that it was when they got rid of Charlie Strong. And I think what really hurts them this year is they hired a new athletic director. The athletic director that they hired that came from TCU, a smaller program down the state highway. TCU knocked off Texas a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
This athletic director came to Texas because he thought he had bigger and better things with the football program.
Yeah.
Then he loses the Red River Shootout to Oklahoma, to a freshman. So when you're looking at the chances of Herman making it through the season and starting next season with Texas being the head coach, it doesn't look that good. He's not making it to the playoffs once again.
Yeah, and speaking of losing to a horned frog, next time you're hungry, get the Big C burger. It's a tasty burger. It's ooh-yeah good. And speaking of horned frogs, it comes with exotic meats, if that makes sense to you. You good boys in Texas know exactly what I'm talking about. You like your hamburgers with exotic meats, and you get that with the Big C burger. I want to ask you something. Speaking of exotic, Big C, college football game on Saturday between number 10 Florida, the Gators, and the LSU Tigers at the Swamp has been postponed. And it's been postponed after the Gators they've seen a surge in positive COVID-19 tests this weekend alone. It was announced today. Ron DeSantis down there, the governor of Florida, says, hey, it'll just go away. It's not a problem, even though 215,000 people have died. And none of them had the 14 doctors that Donald Trump bragged about having 14 doctors as people are in convalescent homes and can't see their kids and grandkids. And he's out dancing about it. Give me your feeling on how these athletic administrators must feel at University of Florida when the governor says it's okay, but not their football's on pause. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, I think they're finally starting to feel the pressure and that they can't protect their players. I think this is what it's really coming down to. Because when we see the spread that has occurred in the SEC over the past week of different universities coming down with COVID-19 and game cancellations, this has to start being a serious concern for these athletic directors and presidents of these universities.
Yeah, you would think so, Big C, but you and I tend to have a little bit more common sense, and a lot of guys think common sense is a bad thing. That's why you still have women. God, I gotta say this. I talked about when I was born, I still had on my mom's side my grandmother and my great-grandmother, and even my great-grandfather, and I learned so much from them, Big C. I learned a lot of wisdom because they said you gotta get your education. We could not just be dumb. They wouldn't just let us play sports and not read. We had to read. On my father's side, I had the benefit of having my grandfather and my grandmother, and they were also business people and church people. So I learned a lot about that. And when I hear about, again, POTUS, who's asking white ladies, you know, they tried to scare you about black men with the Willie Horton ad that Ronald Reagan had back in the day, and I thought that was despicable. But they knew something about the white psyche. You know, all life came from Africa, but they don't teach that in the schools. So oftentimes, the white Americans have taught if you have anyone around that's black, that they're ominous, or if they're well-spoken, they're threatening, or they're intimidating, that type of garbage. But when you have Donald Trump, who has 25 sexual assault allegations against him from white women, many of them of the beauty pageants that he ran, and they said he'd walk in while they were naked and say, you look good. It's okay to have me standing here. And he's begging white ladies to vote for him. How desperate must women be to ignore the grab me by the vagina and all the sexism that he's had against them? Big C, your thoughts?
You know, Charleston, he hasn't had many complaints over the last 4 years from these women that he's suffered. He knows the people that he's going after, and they believe in him and trust him. Their families do. He trusts them around their kids. So it's not about how dumb they are, it's how gullible they are.
Wow. Remember that, men, when your daughter said that some guy grabbed her, just tell him, it's okay, baby. That's the kind of guy I vote for. I want to just bring this up in a different story. We have a few minutes left today. Alabama football doesn't get much bigger than Alabama. Nick Saban is probably the best college football coach in the history of the universe, in my opinion, Big C. And he gets a lot of kids from all over the country. Pete Carroll used to do the same thing down at USC. You know, John McKay used to do the same thing down at USC. Paterno did it at Penn State. You know, Woody Hayes did it at Ohio State. A lot of guys did that. But Alabama, head coach Nick Saban, and athletic director Greg Byrne, they test positive for COVID-19. This is the best college football program in the last decade, and they were pushing for playing football. And I hope they can stay healthy. If they don't have the same access to doctors that Donald Trump had, who knows? But Big C, those athletes probably don't have access to 14 doctors the way the coaches and president does. Big C, your thoughts?
No, they don't, but the game will go on. Nick Saban has a private plane. He will fly to the game in his private plane, Charlton. He will sit up in the coach's press box, and he'll call the game from upstairs. But this game will go on. It's too big.
Speaking of too big, I think offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian, he was a head coach at Washington from 2009 and 2013, and at USC in 2014 and 15. He's been placed in charge of taking away the helm for Nick Saban until Nick Saban's able to come back, however long that is. Give me your feeling on the COVID-19 and these kids that make no money whatsoever other than the paper bags they give them. And the guy that's making $10 million a year cannot be around you because science is real, but you got to play anyway, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is what the game is all about. This is about, when you relegate duties. You got to understand, Nick Saban has 15 assistant coaches. Nick Saban does nothing but what a CEO does. He walks around and looks good. Everybody else does the work. Sarkisian always calls the plays offensively, and he has a defensive coordinator. Nick is just the CEO of this business.
Yeah, he has a good business, and I mean, great football coach. I hope he advocates for kids to get paid the way we do. I know Congress was looking at that before COVID hit. I want to jump up to the NFL before we close out today, Big C. The NFL has canceled the Pro Bowl as it focuses on completing its full regular season and postseason amid the COVID-19 pandemic. And the league announced that today that it will be the first time since the 1949 season that the NFL has not held some form of a postseason all-star game. Big C, your thoughts?
In the last dozen or half dozen Pro Bowls, have you really paid any attention? It's
not really.
Even a game anymore, Charlton. It's beyond practice.
Yeah, it's mostly exhibition. I know that last year when they were having the game earlier, this year before the Super Bowl, there was a lot of guys were paying homage to Kobe Bryant that passed away from a helicopter crash, he and his daughter and several other members down in Southern California. So I remember a lot of players just paying homage to Kobe and having their own feelings about it. I always liked the game better when they played it in Hawaii. I don't know why the NFL got away from that. It was a chance for families to just get away and go enjoy the island, but it's not my money, and maybe they like playing in the mainland. It's all fair and love and war. I want to look at college basketball. Would you believe that Las Vegas, it will host an NCAA tournament men's basketball regional for the first time in 2023 after the NCAA changed its policy that prevented states with sports wagering from hosting championships. Do you think we might just see some shenanigans in this game, Big C? Your thoughts?
No, Charlton, because if the NCAA did not do this, then they most likely would have not been able to hold the NCAA tournament at all any longer in the United States. If you recall last year when the Supreme Court opened up gambling nationwide in the United States, all states now are allowed to have gambling, Charlton. So it just made Vegas the proper spot to have it in now.
Do you like that with the youth? You know what it's like when you go down to Vegas. You do a lot of things that nobody knows about but you, and maybe that video camera that you have in your shoe, if that makes sense to you, Big C. But the NFL, they're okay with, because the Raiders are there now. NHL hockey, they're good too because they have a professional hockey team there too, Big C. You don't think college will have any type of temptation that they don't want to learn about, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, gambling is legal in all 50 states, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so if that was the thing that held back, the NCAA from having tournaments in Vegas before, because you have so many teams there over many days and a lot of money is bet on that, the NCAA can't use that as an excuse because gambling is legal in all 50 states.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. Who needs a paper bag when you can get money legally from the bookies, Big C? Cam Newton returns to the New England Patriots coming up on Thursday, so he had his chance to step aside and they figured out how to make sure that he's okay. I hope that whatever they're giving to multi-millionaires and the president, they can get that out to the general population. I want to close out with this because voting's so important. I know Amy Colby Barrett, she got caught lying. She hit 10, I think there was 9 decisions that she ruled on in writing that she forgot. Inexplicably, you know how sometimes women say, I just forgot, or I don't remember, if that makes sense to you. Well, they caught her and they're trying to get her, nominated tomorrow, Big C. But the NBA, they have a big get out the vote effort, and it really has resulted in unprecedented voter registration. Big C, I want to compliment me and you, just like it's a pretty sad dog that won't wag his own tail. Ever since we became a platform with Big C Sports, we're the first sports show that almost every single program we've had people to go out and vote to become politically inclined. That politics is so important, you can't just be a shut up and dribble kind of program, especially as a black man. If black men and black women do not put their intellectual capacity out in front of the universe, then people will mistake you as being a dumb jock. That will never apply to me. Now the NBA is also following our platform, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at that and the NCAA getting out, many players started something for that last year about how important voting was. And when you think about these college-age students, they're of voting age.
Yeah.
And they're large swaths of America. We're talking about millions of students across America that can sway a vote.
Yeah, they can. And one more for you people that tell me, man, you guys talk too much politics. I just want to hear sports. Big C. After just 22% of players voted in 2016. That's when we went live. Our show started in 2015. 96% registration this year. When we came on the air, 22% of the NBA voted. 96% are registered now. There's only one sports show in the universe that talks about voting every show. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's an important thing called awakening. And when you decide that you want to be a part of your children's future, of your future, it's not about how much money you're making now. It's what will life have for you 10 years down the road from now.
Yeah, and make sure you guys, your grandparents need access to health care too. They need it. I love that I was growing up around my grandparents on my mother's and father's side, and I appreciate having a loving mother and grew up with a loving father. You guys do it for your parents if you won't do it for yourself. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, as you were talking about those white quarterbacks earlier in the program underperforming, I see a quarterback going back home next year, and that's Cam Newton. Heading back to the Atlanta Falcons, and Arthur Blank will make that move to bring himself into the modern age, bringing Cam Newton, because New England will not sign him to a franchise tender as a free agent. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. You do a marvelous job, and you're a great agent for America every day.
Arthur Blank, listen to what Big C said. Bring Cam to Atlanta. You deserve a winner. Do you deserve a winner? Of course you do. That's why you follow Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.